Ryan Chandeskada, first of all, it would be remiss of me not to start with congratulations. Assistant coach of the Indian national team. I suppose only head coach is the bigger position in the in the world of cricket coaching. How are you enjoying the experience so far?
Hi, man. Yeah, thanks for the congratulations. I guess firstly, you only get congratulated in a coaching job when you actually do something. So I always find it a tough one when I'm congratulating people as well, and that's generally the reaction you get from coaches who have a vision to do well with the team. I mean, this one I found fantastic so far. I think the way coaching works at the moment, unless you're one of the big names in the game, it's almost who you align yourself with. And I've been lucky in terms of impressing Gauti with how I go about things, and he's seen something there that he likes. But obviously very excited for the next cycle in Indian cricket and to build on the great work that the coaching staff and the current players have done in the last 18 months.
Gautam Gambhir tells a story. He's told it on a number of occasions now about his time at KKR, the Kolkata Knight Riders in the IPL, when you were one of the overseas players. And if I recall it, I haven't actually heard him tell the story, but I know that I've read about it. He tells a story that you were one of the overseas players at KKR, and there was a rash of injuries, and there were only four overseas players available for selection, and you were overlooked. And Gambier says that your reaction to that was what made you, in his eyes, one of the most selfless cricketers he's ever met. Was that a big thing at the time? Do you remember that match? Do you remember that moment?
I do, but I didn't see it as a big thing. I still don't, and I would be, gutted if anyone behaved any differently. It kind of reminds me of the Roy Keane quote, where someone praises him for what Alex Ferguson had said about him covering every blade of grass and fighting for every ball. And he says, "Well, what else is there to do? What are you praising me for? This is what I do." And I know it's to a far lesser degree, but I think it is important how you carry yourself around the group, and whether you're disappointed or whether you feel overlooked or even cheated in a way for not playing. To do anything less but give your best is just not acceptable. And I guess that's the starting point for him introducing the work that I do to that group, which was the Night Riders. But certainly know what I expect and what I intend to give every time I'm involved with the team.
There's a great deal of Indian pride, obviously, particularly having just won the T20 World Cup. And with you and Morne Morkel being appointed the bowling coach, you're ostensibly an assistant coach. I must ask you whether your main area of expertise is going to be batting or fielding, or is it all round? But there's a sense, isn't there, after you and Morkel were appointed, that I guess that some in the Indian establishment are saying, well, why aren't we sticking with Indian coaches?
Yeah, and I can see the point of view of that. I think if you look at it in two ways, you want the best guys coaching. And I'm absolutely not saying I'm the best guy to coach. But I guess with Gauti's vision and him taking over, he's looking to fill pieces of the puzzle that he thinks are going to bring the best out of this team. I don't subscribe to boundaries myself. So to say an Australian is better than an Indian, is better than a South African, is better than a Nepalese coach is just ludicrous. It makes no sense. But at the same time, I do understand the things that being an Indian national brings. You understand the pride, you understand the hardships that those guys go through to get there. Uh, the language thing is a big thing as well, although most of the meetings are conducted in English. Your relationships with the players are a lot easier if you're there all the time. So there are some merits for having locally based coaches, I beg your pardon. But certainly to be binary and say that a non-Indian cannot do as good a job or cannot do the job that they envision for you to do is nonsensical.
Your own record, Tendo, is incredibly impressive. I mean, a double championship winner. You average 64 in World Cups, 200 first-class games, 11,000 runs, etc., etc. And you've played T20 franchise cricket in 6 different countries. So it would be very hard for anybody to seriously question your credentials, and you've got coaching under your belt. Um, Mornay's appointment is, I think, regarded as far more left field, and he's only 39. I mean, you're only 44 years young, but have you how do you think Mornay's taken to? You've obviously spoken to him. Do you think he's under more pressure than you?
He certainly hasn't portrayed that in any external way. If anything, I think in terms of credentials and certainly what they're looking for, and some of the pushback has been that I haven't played Test cricket. And I get that. And, you've read out those stats, but again, in context and in comparison to the job we're being asked to do, it's international cricket at the highest level. So if anyone's more qualified in terms of going through that experience, it'll be Mornay. You know him as a guy, I know him as a guy. He's not going to be phased. I think if you go into jobs like this being worried about what everyone's saying on Twitter and Instagram, and even the pushback you're going to get from within the organization, everyone's going to have an opinion. You can't go into these sort of jobs. You can't be timid. You can't worry about what people are saying. So certainly in my conversations with Mornay, he feels much the same as I do. We've been given this opportunity. We have a vision of how to get the best out of these guys. We know what's important to the team, the direction the team's going, and we're just going to give it our absolutely everything for as long as it lasts.
I sometimes wonder in a position like this whether coach is the wrong word. Gary Kirsten tells a great story, doesn't he? And when he became head coach of India, he went to Sachin Tendulkar and said, "What do you want from me?" And Tendulkar said, "I want you to be my friend." Um, I mean, you're working with the best players in the world. So how how do you see your role as coach?
It's very tough to define in such a short or concise way. And you're absolutely right. I don't know if you saw the article on Cricket Info a couple of weeks ago. It's Alex Gardner. Again, he referred to the Shane Warne saying a coach is something that gets you to the ground. And certainly my experience, having played for 20 years and now moving into coaching, that is my perception, is that guys do not want a lot of technical knowledge. They do not want a lot of tactical stuff. They want you to be someone they can talk to, someone they can be really open with. They want the odd bit of guidance in terms of structure. They want good plans in place. They want you to understand their level of risk. It's all those sort of what the Americans term soft skills. It's the non-cricketing skills that are more important. At the end of the day, again, what you're putting out in terms of tactics and batting templates, in terms of training programs, you're not going to hit the nail for everyone. Everyone's very different, and cricket's been allowed to explore in that way, and guys do prepare differently, and guys want different things. So I think that side of it is becoming more important. And that's something that I'm trying to upskill on all those things I've just mentioned. I think are going to be very important in the future of coaching.
All that time that you and Mornay spent in the IPL will be very important in understanding Indian values, culture, and society.
Yeah, you spot on. I just had a brief glimpse of it in Sri Lanka a couple of weeks ago. Thankfully, I walked into a team that's very well led. Rohit certainly takes the reins in the ODI thing, and I'm sure it'll be the same in the Test squad. And Surya, again, someone who I was lucky enough to play with the KKR, so at least we have a footing of a relationship to work from. But again, such a strong leader, how he went in and really wanted to do that job, taking charge of the team. And then the informal leaders, they're also fantastic. You've obviously got Virat, who speaks very well, who again takes charge, understands the depth and importance of Indian cricket and where it's going. Hardik Pandya was obviously overlooked for the captaincy. You got Shubman Gill. You got a lot of guys who captain their franchises. And certainly from what I saw in that brief snippet was you got guys who understand where they want to take this team and what it takes to get there, which is really comforting as a coach coming into a new environment.
And you are still going strong after 20 years, you into your 40s at Essex. As I said, a couple of championship wins. And then you finally retired from international cricket and first class cricket. And then a few months later, you were batting coach at Kent. And then you've had a couple of international consultancies. I just wondered whether you ever considered sort of taking a year off, like playing some golf, walking the dogs. And you've got a young family, you've got twin boys. Your work rate's phenomenal.
I don't talk too much about me, but that's one thing I've always prided myself on. I want to work harder than anyone else, and I think that's the easiest way to gain respect and trust from players. If you can show them that you're going to do absolutely anything for them, You can ask them to run through doors for you on the field, on the fifth day of a test match, when it's 35 degrees in Australia. If you're not putting the work in, if you're not doing the things that they need all the time, I don't think you can expect them to do that. So I guess that's the first point, or the first answer to that question. I genuinely love coaching, man. I would do it out of choice, and even on holiday, if a kid asked me, "Oh, please come down to the nets and throw a few balls," I really love it. So I haven't felt the need for a break. Again, we're very lucky in the setups I've been in, especially with the Night Riders and now with India. The hands-on work that other people do is just at a different level. So, for instance, we have 3 throwers in India, 3 slingers. So it's not very often that you're actually doing loads and loads of physical work. You might throw for an hour in a training session. You might hit a few catches. So the physical side hasn't been overly taxing. And fingers crossed at the moment, everything's running well, and I'm really enjoying the hands-on work.
I know your time's very valuable, so and I've taken a lot of it already. Was Gautam Gambhir very specific about what he wanted from you, what his requirement was from you, or did he just want you around to contribute wherever the players wanted you to contribute? And also, what are you looking forward to? I mean, you mentioned Australia there. Obviously, there's a massive test series coming up, India in Australia. So what excites you about the next sort of short term, medium term, even long term?
Okay. In terms of the role, the way he set it up is that there are 3 assistants. So myself, Abhishek, and Mornay. I mean, it's pretty obvious that Mornay's specialty is bowling. I hope he never says anything about batting in any in any situation. I can't see where he's going to come in and speak on batting. But certainly, me and Abby, he wants us to be involved across all 3 facets of the game. Fielding was my sort of coaching forte before I've taken this role. And obviously Gati's a batter as well. So I feel like with 3 batting coaches there essentially, and 1 bowling coach, are we just going to have to help out with bits and pieces of all things. And like I said in the first question, I don't think much of what we're going to bring is technical knowledge to these guys. So in a sense, it's more about mindset, about situational awareness, how we think they can control certain phases of the game. It's just throwing ideas out there, and obviously debriefing, and keeping the mental space really good is going to be important. I think that's how Gauti certainly sees me around the place, the energy I bring, and the work ethic to show to the players, what we expect from them as well. What excites me, it's a great time to take over. It's a little bit daunting on the back of a World Cup win. How well they've done, winning twice in Australia the last 2 times. I guess one of the challenges that I wasn't expecting, and I kind of overlooked, is the playing of spin of Indian bowlers. We got undone in Sri Lanka, and I think the mindset of the Indians has been such that they are so desperate to do well overseas. I think the focus has moved to doing well in Australia, doing well in England, and we've kind of let playing spin, which was always the strength of the Indian team, fall back a little bit. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to, helping get to that position where Indians are the best players of spinning the world again. Just in terms, again, what we're looking forward to, qualifying for the World Test Championship. There's a great opportunity with 10 tests left, 5 tests now in India, 3 against New Zealand and 2 against Bangladesh, which are going to be important. Then going to Australia is going to be great. The Champions Trophy, medium term as well, with only 3 ODIs to go in the prep phase, which is going to be really challenging to switch between the formats and get the team ready for that. Again, something they're desperate to win. And then in the next cycle, sorry, after the next World Test Championship cycle, the tour to England is going to be fantastic, and then prepping the team for the T20 World Cup. So in terms of timing, yes, quite difficult to walk into a team that's just come back with the World Cup. But in terms of the schedule, what's ahead for the next 18 months is mouth-watering as a coach. It's all the series you want to be involved in, all the challenges you want to come up against.
Tende, maybe a bit harsh on Mornay there, because I think he, above anybody else I've ever seen in the last 30 years, has absolutely mastered the art of how not to play spin. So if you ever need assistance there, he's the man to go to. How not to play spin.
Yeah, you're right. And how enthusiastic Mornay is. I'm sure he'll bring a lot of lightheartedness to it. And again, in this, the short space, I can see what those players are up against in terms of pressure, in terms of scrutiny, in terms of privacy. So being lighthearted and being positive is going to be a big part of taking that team forward.
Ryan ten Doeschate, thanks so much for your time. Very, very best of luck. We'll be following you extremely closely, and walk the dogs, play some golf.
Will do. Cheers, man. It's always nice to talk.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.